We're being warned this morning NATO could be at risk of collapse for the first time since World War II as Donald Trump enforces fresh tariffs on 8 European nations who have pushed back against his proposed takeover of Greenland. The president says the tariffs will remain in place until a deal is done for America's, quote, complete and total purchase of the Arctic territory. He says world peace is at risk until that deal is done. And for more, we are joined now by Deputy Prime Minister Richard Marles. Good morning to you, Richard. Let's jump straight in. Do you agree with the US President here that world peace is at risk?
Well, what I would say is that the future of Greenland is fundamentally a matter for Denmark and Greenland. Obviously, that has to be the case. And so that's where Australia stands. And we're not going to do a running commentary on America's relationship with Europe, but fundamentally Greenland's future has to be a matter for Denmark and Greenland.
But this could have huge implications for us. We kind of operate on the sidelines of NATO, and we know that NATO has underpinned much of global order right now. We've got the Prime Minister of Sweden calling it blackmail. Emmanuel Macron has said it's unacceptable. These leaders are actually attempting, it appears, to stand up to Donald Trump here.
Well, look, when it comes to the question of tariffs, obviously our position on that has also been clear. We don't support tariffs, and we've consistently made that position clear to the United States. And we obviously clearly see that the future of Greenland is a matter for it and for Denmark. That's how Australia recognises this situation, and that's our position. So our position is very clear, but at the same time, we're not obviously going to engage in a running commentary of the relationship between the United States and Europe.
Are you fearful that NATO will collapse?
Look, NATO has played a very important role and continues to be very strong. I've been to the last two NATO meetings representing Australia, and there is a definite sense of unity when you're at NATO meetings. So I feel confident about the future of NATO.
But that statement, the eight European nations, they have issued that joint statement. They've condemned this as a dangerous downward spiral. Do you agree with that assessment?
We completely agree with the fact that the future of Greenland has to be a matter for Denmark and Greenland. That they are the sovereign powers here, and that's what Australia recognises, and that's how we see this issue. And so, we don't see it in any other terms than that. We're not going to engage in that running commentary, but fundamentally, Greenland is a matter for Denmark and Greenland.
Minister, just moving on, Australia has been invited to join Donald Trump's Board of Peace aimed at overseeing the ceasefire in Gaza. Will the Prime Minister accept this invitation?
Well, look, we're in discussions with the United States about that. That invitation has just come through. We obviously welcome the invitation, as we do President Trump's efforts to bring about peace in the Middle East. We need to see an end to this conflict and this tragedy, and frankly, we need to see that part of the world having humanitarian assistance brought to it and being rebuilt. And that's what's at the heart of what the Trump administration is seeking to do, and we want countries to work with the United States in ensuring that this peace agreement or this peace arrangement continues to play out. We will have further discussions with the United States about the specific position of Australia engaging on that board, but we very much welcome the invitation.
It is a fascinating prospect, Minister. Thanks for your time today.
All right. Slovakia, just trying to find a precept to start off with. All right, this is 1 Thessalonians chapter 5 and verse 3. For when they shall say peace and safety, then sudden destruction cometh upon them, as travail upon a woman with child, and they shall not escape. Call Halayim Yahweh Bahasham Yahweh Shai Bahasham Rachahakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, better known as GMS Ruel. Peace and salutations to the hopeful elect, the tabernacle of David, beginning with the 144,000 and the rest of the men, women, and children out with the 12 tribes, whom Yahweh Bahasham Yahweh Shai will ultimately have mercy upon in these last days. This is your brother Matazabath, back again with another impromptu video through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bahasham Yahweh Shai. And as you can see, as the scriptures tells us, a kingdom that is divided against itself cannot stand, right? Let's also get that if we can. All right. In the book of Mark, chapter 3 and verse 24. And I'm going to start at verse 23. And he called them unto him and said unto them in parables, how can Satan cast out Satan? And if a kingdom be divided against itself, that kingdom cannot stand. And if a house be divided against itself, that house cannot stand. And if Satan rise up against himself and be divided, he cannot stand, but hath an end. All right. And as the scripture says, the end is manifest. Let's get that in the, what's that, 2 Esdras 9. And verse 5, but we'll start at the top. It says, he answered me then and said, measure thou the time diligently in itself. And when thou seest part of the signs pass, which I have told thee before, then shalt thou understand that it is the very same time wherein the highest will begin to visit the world which he made. And if you've been paying very close attention, we can tell that Yahweh Bashem Yahushai is visiting the earth because his spirit is upon the earth, fulfilling prophecy. Verse 3 says, therefore, when there should be seen earthquakes and uproars of the people in the world, and we currently see that. All right. There's been uproar, Salakia, in Iran, France, here in Australia, okay, Great Britain, okay, and now there's going to be an all-out civil war in Babylon the Great, America. Verse 4 says, then shalt thou well understand that the Most High spake of those things from the days that were before thee. As it tells us in Isaiah 46 and 10, he declares the end from the beginning. All right. It says, even from the beginning, for like as all that is made in the world hath a beginning and an end, and the end is manifest. You can't get around it. Okay, Esau, your days have already been determined. Okay, Yahweh Bashem Yahushai has set the bounds where you cannot pass them. Let's also grab that before we get this article real quick. That's in the book of Job, and I believe that's 14 and 5. It says, seeing his days are determined, the number of his months are with thee. Thou hast appointed his bounds that he cannot pass. So this is the reason why, as it says in Revelation, the 12th chapter, in the 12th verse particularly, and that is the fact that because the devil, be that of Esau, Edom, is coming down upon us with great wrath. Why? Because he knoweth that he have but a short time. And notice everything that they're doing, they're becoming more and more sloppy as they continue to do it. Now, with this story between NATO and Babylon the Great, this report just came out a day ago. This is from MSN.com. And it's entitled, Europe Divorcing America, Now Seen as Inevitable. Okay, and this is biblical prophecy because the scriptures tells us the beast shall hate the whore and burn her with fire. So we are witnessing the total collapse of Esau, Edom's empire, okay, in real time. So let's quickly go through this if we can. It says, after 80 years of peaceful cooperation, President Donald Trump's tariff threats against countries opposing his efforts to take over Greenland have become the final straw for many European governments, which now view a divorce from the United States as inevitable, according to a Politico report. It says, in private, dismayed European officials described Trump's rush to annex the sovereign Danish territory as crazy and mad, asking if he is caught up in his warrior mode after his Venezuela adventure and saying he deserves Europe's toughest retaliation for what many see as a clear and unprovoked attack against allies on the other side of the Atlantic. One European diplomat told Politico that Trump's Greenland threats are being perceived as one step too far. And there is a shift in U.S. policy, and in many ways, it is permanent, a senior official with a European government added. Waiting it out is not a solution. What needs to be done is an orderly and coordinated movement to a new reality. Politico reported that the result could be a radical reshaping of the West that would upend the global balance of power, which could include transatlantic economic damage and security risks. And America's ability to project hard power into Africa and the Middle East could also be damaged without access to the network of bases, airstrips, and logistical support that Europe currently provides. That breakup may have already begun. National security advisors from 35 governments are in regular contact, meeting frequently online and in person, as well as interacting via less formal text messaging. And they are accustomed to seeking multilateral solutions in a world where Trump is a big part of the problem. And national leaders across Europe, including those from the UK, France, Germany, Finland, Italy, and the European Commission, regularly text with each other, often in the same group chat. And their focus has been on Trump's actions more than his words, but the American president's hell-raising over Greenland has now tipped the balance. And the military might of this new European coalition would be vast, Politico noted, especially if Ukraine is included in a burgeoning new security alliance. All right, so it's looking very grim for Babylon the Great. Now, the scriptures tells you, all right, in Obadiah 1, which this is vastly approaching, because see now these European nations, as I stated in a video that I did about a month ago, they are now looking for a leader to the free world, and they no longer trust that America can lead the new world. And it's talking about the new world order. Okay. And see, this is what happens when you continue to stay hip to biblical prophecy, man. Okay. See, you can't trump prophecy. All right. There's a title within itself right there. You cannot trump prophecy, man. So this is Obadiah chapter 1 and verse 7. All the men of thy confederacy have brought thee even to the border. The men that were at peace with thee have deceived thee and prevailed against thee. That they that eat thy bread have laid their wound under thee, and there is none understanding him. See, Esau doesn't understand that the Most High has him in a trick bag. But see, his pride, okay, is causing him to be blinded. Yeah, the Lord gave, as the scripture says in Job 9:24, the earth was given into the hands of the wicked. Here it is, Esau, you was given the whole entire planet right under your thumb, right? You was given technology, okay? You was given wisdom on the left-hand side, right? The scripture says, thou art wiser than Daniel. But it was all to your demise, okay? Because the scripture says there's no counsel against the Most High. See, you were proud. Okay. And this is why the scripture says in Isaiah 47, right? Isaiah 47:7. And thou sayest, I shall be a lady forever, so that thou didst not lay these things to thy heart, neither didst remember the latter end of it. Therefore, hear now this, thou that art given to pleasures, that dwellest carelessly, that sayest in thy heart, I am and none else beside me. I shall not sit as a widow, neither shall I know the loss of children. That's talking about losing war. Because when it comes to America having an invasion on their soil, they've never known to have lost a war on their soil. That is, you see. So this is why the scripture says his look was more stout than his fellows in Daniel 7, and that's talking about the American Edomite, right? But let's also get this in Jeremiah 51:7. It says, Babylon have been a golden cup in Yahweh's hand that made all the earth drunken, and the nations have drunken of her wine. Therefore, Salakia, therefore the nations are mad, okay? Because they got in bed with this whore, all right? Took upon them, America's philosophies, the way of life, being westernized, this, that, and the third, okay? But now they're starting to realize that, the grass ain't really green on the other side. All right. And, the scripture says that the beast shall hate the whore, which we're going to grab that in Revelation. But let's continue to read on down. Verse 8, it says, Babylon is suddenly fallen and destroyed. How for her? Take balm for her pain. If so be she may be healed. And we would have healed Babylon, but she is not healed. Forsake her and let us go everyone into his own country. For her judgment reacheth unto the heaven and is lifted up even to the skies. And see, even with because America is a big melting pot. Okay, it has every nationality over there. But a lot of those heathens, especially that are over there, they're leaving because they know what time it is. All right, those who are switched on, they know that, something is going to happen to America. You see? And this is right. See, everything is panning out the way that's supposed to be panning out. But let's drop down to verse 11. It says, make bright the arrows, which is talking about the missiles. Gather the shields. Yahweh have raised up the spirit of the kings of the Medes. All right, this is talking about Russia. Okay, because Russia is going to be the main ones to offset everything pursuant to Revelation 11 and or not 11, but Revelation 20 and 8. Okay, Gog and Magog to the battle, right? And also Ezekiel the 38th chapter. It says, for his device is against Babylon to destroy it, because it is the vengeance of Yahweh and the vengeance of his temple. Let's see all those nations too that's going to be gathered with Russia, okay, where it talks about, be a guard unto those nations. They're going to get down too. All right. But it's just that also we get Revelation 17. All right. Verse 16. And the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire. Okay, so everything that we're witnessing that's happening with the beast and the great horde that sitteth upon, all right, is centered around what we read within the Bible dealing with biblical prophecy. All right, and see, what a time to be alive, because to see this thing play out the way that it's actually playing out, it's a beautiful thing to see, man. And Albaratazar, we are a part of that number, okay, to endure, to see this man go down, okay. And I think it was one more, could be wrong, but let me see here, because I didn't want this lesson to be too long. Yeah, Jeremiah 50:9, it says, for lo, I will raise and cause to come up against Babylon and an assembly of great nations from the north country. All right, and then that's talking about where Russia is situated, all right, and those great nations that's going to accompany Russia, is all of Russia's allies, but also including NATO and the EU. Okay, because a lot of those European nations, all right, a lot of NATO nations, they're going to get down and they're going to shoot their missiles and they're not going to miss. It says, and they shall set themselves in array against her. From thence she shall be taken. Their arrows shall be as of a mighty expert men, and none shall return in vain. Okay. And why is none going to return in vain? Because ultimately the Lord's Spirit is going to be in those missiles, because his purpose is for the land to be utterly laid desolate. Point blank, period. All right. So, really nothing else to say other than that. Straight to the point and just keeping you update, what's going on. So as always, Akim, hopefully you were edified and this lesson was straight to the point. And with that, I'm going to close out, giving all praise, glory, and honor be to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rakah HaKodash. Once again, double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, better known as GMS, who rule well. Peace and salutations unto the hopeful elect, the tabernacle of David. Shalom.